So here we are, the last game of the Battle Network series. Not the last one I'm going to be looking at, mind you, but it is still important to note that it's the final game of the series. Now, when I was coming back to take a look at these games, I remember being excited to go back to 4 and to this one, number 6. And well, with all that said, looking at all these games so far, 3's been kind of the one that surprised me the most with how good it actually was compared to what I remembered. With 4 kind of disappointing me a little bit, like the gameplay's fun, but the story was kind of poo. And 5 improved the story a little bit, but my goodness, was that such a slog to get through. So there's a lot riding on 6 when I was coming back to take a look at it. So now the score so far for Battle Network series is now 1 good and 2 bad. So there's a lot riding on number 6. If I don't like it, then that means we're definitely going to have an even split on the series, going back to the first 2 games where it's in a style that I'm not the biggest, well, I should say I'm not the biggest fan, my least favorite style of gameplay. But if I do end up liking it, then there's a really good chance that, who knows, maybe I'll have a favorable outlook on the series in general, especially with how much people keep talking about 2. 2's got me kind of excited from how much you guys keep hyping it up. Regardless, all I could do is just play the game and see where my preferences lie in this. Now, just as a quick reminder, I mentioned this before, but I haven't really talked too much about it, but as I was going through all these games, I was playing, what I downloaded at least, I was playing the opposite version of what I had played when I was younger, just to try to see if I could see anything majorly different or whatever as I go through all these games. And so in this game's case, I played Gregar, something like that. I played that way back in the day on an emulator. I didn't own it. I was poor, couldn't find a way to play it. Anyways, I played Gregar way back in the day. So this time I decided to download Falzar as my game of choice to play through this time. Keep that in mind. But enough talk. Let's dive right in and take a look at Megaman Battle Network 6, Side Beast Gregar, and Falzar. So Mega Man Battle Network 6 takes place a short time after 5. Land and company have finally moved up to the 6th grade, but with some bad news to cap it off. Land's father had been relocated to Cyber City to assist with some sciencey stuff, forcing the family to move to the nearby town of Central Town. The move is a little depressing for Land, but it seems to be everyone else in AC/DC that is taking it the hardest, as Land does try his very best to give it his all. It doesn't take very long, though, for Land to find trouble as dangerous events end up happening to the nearby areas, as evidence pointing towards a resurrection of World 3 and Dr. Wily appear imminent. So Battle Network 6 seems to adopt the story style that 3 and 5 kind of had, where it was more akin to a Saturday morning cartoon with different arcs that would play out all throughout the length of the game, which is a decent length in this game's case, which is still fine by me, if at least it's not really mind-blowing with some of the stuff that it introduces in the story. But with that being said, though, I don't know if it's because it's the last game of the series, so it kind of gets a pass by throwing in like easy nostalgia here and there, or if it's the idea of a community losing a member of it, that they're moving away and everyone's all depressed seeing them go, that it just kind of pulls on them little heartstrings like the big softie that I am. But I found the story a bit more gripping this time around. The story, at least. Some of the characters, not so much. When it comes down to the characters that have already been introduced, there's not really a whole lot to say about them. With the new ones, wow, they're just not very good, at least with a few of them. Mick is basically just a Dex clone, except more annoyingly cocky, if that's even possible. And Tab is you can't even count him as a supporting character. He's the shop owner with a few more lines, I guess, except that Higsby had lines before, and at least he was kind of interesting, and at least other previous supporting characters had like unique net navis to differentiate themselves from just the normal everyday person. Mick and Tab don't, and that just makes them disappointing. Iris makes her first appearance from the Mega Man X days, but if you've already played X4, then you kind of already know what she's all about, making all of her reveals and revelations just kind of pointless. And even without having to play X4, you can still kind of get the idea of what's going on pretty early. What's interesting though is that with Colonel making his reappearance as well into the series with Barrel, this game kind of acts like a secondary continuity to Mega Man X4 in a weird way, just with them kind of being together in general and how the plot sort of progresses. Although I guess it's just because it's the two of them together, that's why I kind of felt it so strong, but it might just be me. That's certainly an interesting thing to note with the story, as it certainly moves at a breakneck pace, just like how 5 started pretty much. You move towns and then boom, fire robots, which is interesting to note. I never really talked too much about dungeons in these, as they don't amount to too much, to me at least. 5 replaced the vast majority of them with liberation missions, and 4 was almost non-existent. 6 is interesting, as there's a unique dungeon landscape at the end of each story beat, each with its own unique puzzle to try and solve, and I kind of like them, even if they're all inherently maze related. One has you dodging fireballs while hiding behind blocks, navigating programs back to a starting point, dodging sharks all the way, or hitting all the switches without overlapping. I really like those ones. It's also kind of funny that at the end of it all, the boss Navi has a skull indicating their little space, like a doormat welcoming you to your doom. Yes, welcome to your demise. No! Along with the regular dungeon puzzles, there are a few instances where you go through a few of the zones in the net, slaying cyber ghosts with these special tools, aiming to eliminate all of them with the preset gear you get in one go. Some ghosts take more than one hit to take out though, so to bypass that, you can one-shot them from behind if you get the chance to get behind them. I really like these puzzles too. Trying to be as optimized as possible is fun, though if you get leftover gear, they turn into bug frags, so you could try to brute force your way through if you want to get good amounts of frags. A few of these puzzles require the aid of real-world influence, but sometimes humans can't handle what's going on. That's when the copy bots come into play. These aren't much gameplay-wise, as all you do is slap a Navi in them and you control them. Story implications are really powerful though, since in Land and Mega Man's case, they're technically brothers who never met, so to interact like that for the first time since Battle Network 3 is actually kind of heartwarming. But let's move on to the gameplay. While I do consider this part of the Souls trilogy, it's given a different name and reworked as well. Instead of sacrificing a chip to attain the form, all you need to do is press up on the custom screen to see the list of crosses you've unlocked. You pick it and you're set to go. You retain the form for as long as you have it selected, or if you get hit by an attack that form is weak to. Newly added is the game-specific mechanic, Beast Out. After encountering your game's main side beast, Mega Man stores the beast in him, allowing him to beast out for a short time, essentially changing into another form. The new form changes Mega Man's buster type and how he uses chips as well. On top of that, if Mega Man's already in a cross form, then when he beasts out, Mega Man retains the cross in the beast form, calling it a cross beast. I remember liking this system more than I thought. One sec. Ah, okay, that's why. Falzar and its crosses suck. Spell Cross gives your buster a bubbler effect, lets you walk on ice, and charge Aqua Chips for extra damage. Using Aqua Chips also heals slightly. Tengu Cross has a charged wind rake that eliminates auras, has air shoes, and doesn't flinch. Tomahawk has a life sword sized charge attack that hits pretty hard and lets you charge wood-based chips. Ground's charge attacks ducks Mega Man under the ground, then pops in front of an enemy in the same row as you. Using Break Chip, drops rocks, and has super armor. And Dust charges a garbage dude to dash forward and slam the closest enemy in that row, breaking that panel. You can recycle chips back into your folder as well. Using Beast Out to summon Falzar, it retains the passive stuff of the cross you're using, but with added flair, but regardless, allows a rapid-fire spread buster to shoot out. Using chips moves Mega Man in position no matter where he is to hit the opponent targeted, has float shoes, and charging normal chips does a strong close-range swipe. Meanwhile, Gregor's crosses consist of Heat Cross, which turns the charge to a flamethrower type attack, adds extra damage to the buster as is, and adds damage to fire chips. Elect Cross fires a long beam of lightning for its charge, Elect chips gain extra damage, and you can charge normal chips to add a paralysis effect to it. Slash also has a life sword sized charge attack, and adds extra damage to sword based chips. Erase adds extra damage to cursor chips, a long fire beam charge that pierces invisible enemies, and can do some weird shenanigans to enemies with certain HP values. And Charge can add extra damage to fire type chips by charging it, adds extra chips to the custom screen, and has a charge attack that, well, charges forward with full invincibility. Gregor's Beast Out allows for super armor, as well as a fast-firing rapid-fire buster, along with the charge attacks similar to Falzar. While beasting out, you can only beast out for a certain amount of turns as displayed on your status bar. You recover uses as you complete other fights, so it's not something you can always use. Out of desperation, you can beast out one last time if you're out of charges to go into this hyper state where you lose control of Mega Man. Doing that for a turn knocks Mega Man out of it and makes him tired though, losing the ability to cross, loses the ability to go full sync, and you lose health all that while, so it's not really advised. I found use for all of Gregor's crosses, and even all of their designs look pretty sweet. Even Charge Cross, which could have very well looked the stupidest. Falzar's crosses have charge attacks that are either short range or slow to use. Status Guard on Tomahawk feels pointless because there are very few times I've even felt that impact. Float Shoes on Tengu is negated since Falzar has it. The boulders dropping are random, and it's not like they can even combo anyways. And though someone might benefit from it, my playstyle never took advantage of the Dust Cross. The only one I really liked using was Spout for its fast-firing bubbler and the added health gain. I use Tomahawk sometimes to throw out a few strong charge attacks, but Spout's the only design that I liked out of the group. As for the Beast Out, I do like those designs, and even the Cross Beast ones as well. They definitely improve pretty much all of them. But Gregor's the only one that I liked using solely for the rapid fire buster. Falzar doesn't always reach, and I only had minor success with it on the final boss, while Gregor reminds me of the days when I used Gut Soul in Battle Network 4. It's so good. That said, I wasn't a fan of the lock-on capabilities for the chips. If it locked on for just that charge attack, that would have been fine. But more often than not, I found myself being put into harm's way by accident when I just wanted to use a chip in a separate position. To that end, at least Gregor has the super armor to withstand it. That being said, the only abilities out of those you get absolutely in a playthrough are the Beast Out forms and Heat and Spout Cross for their respective games. Everything else are extra. To unlock them, you'll get an email about the respective operator hosting a class with their Navi regarding something they work with, and you then get to control that Navi as you participate in some minigames, then battle the Navi at the end. After doing that, you're not only allowed to unlock the cross, but are also allowed to use the Navi whenever in the net. Rather than being limited to liberation missions like 5, you can take these Navis out wherever, which is helpful for two reasons. One is that there are special roadblocks that hide some treasures that can only be resolved by these specific Navis. The other is that during some story beats, you lose access to Mega Man and need to rescue him, so you can take a Navi you've unlocked in to try and save him, which is actually kind of neat. Any Navi you've unlocked can be implemented into the story and have their own dialogue too. As for the end of the story, it certainly does conclude in a distinct manner. No room for sequel potential, which is a shame, though Capcom certainly retconned themselves before, so who knows. Though in this case, they would have to introduce some new villains since, like, anyone and everyone brought into the series has had their allegiance either aimed towards good or jailed. But that aside, while I do think they aim for easy pickings on using nostalgia and cheesy subject matter to pull on some easy emotional strings, it doesn't mean it's bad. Each story has its own unique plot and setting, all of which help push the larger story along. There are twists and turns all along the way, even if they're a little easy to predict, and just... goddamn, that ending though. Ugh, it's so sappy, you could drill a hole into it and get some maple syrup out of it. I don't know.
That is sap.
Jeez, what more could I say? Well, the design of the dungeons and the overall layout of the worlds look a lot better. They look really nice. The character sprites seem much more unique this time around. There's a lot more specific sprites for different people all throughout, although there are still twins and triplets still kicking around, but I guess it can't be helped too much. And I haven't talked too much about the music in the series, mostly because I kind of don't listen to it a whole lot. But I will say at the very least that the opening theme when you start the game, that title theme, is pretty bumpin'. So the story is good, and the gameplay, I feel at least, is at its absolute best here, with the most ease of accessibility and a bunch of different ways to customize Megaman to how you like it. I'm really glad I was able to come back and re-experience how much I actually appreciate this game. Well, at least Gregor. Falzar not so much, but it's all the same. It's all the same. With how the gameplay really is at the end of the day, it actually kind of feels like the perfect cross, no pun intended, between the style and the Souls versions of the gameplay that I've kind of perceived the series having. So I'm glad that I was able to come back to these games. And next time, we'll be exploring some uncharted territory for once. I've never touched these games before, and I honestly didn't really think that I felt the need to come back to them, but with how much people were talking about how great 2 was, especially compared to the rest of the series, how some people were even ranking it higher than 6 even, I feel very tempted to now go and at least take a look at 2. 1's still on the back burner, but for next time, I will definitely be taking a look at Megaman Battle Network 2. Don't know when that will be, but we'll get there eventually, so until then. But anywho, thank you all so much for watching. If you like what you saw, you can click right up there to check out some of my other videos that I've done, or if you really feel like it, you can click right up there to subscribe. And until next time guys, I will see you all later.